you can come out and do as little or as much as you want and just have a great weekend cycling some of the best roads in the Peak District. Talking like Winnett's Pass, Snake Pass, Holmmoth, Roseley Bar, you know, they're big names. It is such a nutritional course that, yeah, it is a real challenge to get round.
And having enough confidence, but not having too much ego to feel like you're adaptable and you can be still humbled by the terrain and the environment that you're riding in.
We really have got something special here. You know, these hills are, you got to come see them to believe them. I completed 32 iron distance triathlons in 32 days this year. So no wonder I'm tired.
Okay, so we're here for the third episode of the Costume Podcast. We're here at PPG headquarters, Pure Peak Grit up in the Peak District. We're currently just over halfway through 2026 Pure Peak Grit. We had a field of 11 start. We've currently got 3 that are still riding, which is quite a level of attrition, but we'll talk more about the why of that in a moment. Here with Laura, Massey-Pugh and Dave McLeavy, who are the organisers of the event. And we're in a little bit of a lull right now. We've had a bunch of people leave, someone being picked up who had to be collected off the course, and some others who've just kind of gone off, and 3 more on the course still. So we thought we might just take this opportunity to have a little chat and talk about what it takes to ride in and run an event like this. Laura, maybe you want to kick off and give us a little backstory to the event, because it's been going since 2019, female-founded event. Maybe talk about, you know, how it came about in the first place.
Yeah, no, definitely. So it was absolutely a female-founded event. There was 10 hill-munching ladies who went out on the original edition in 2019. At that point, they started the event from the middle of the Peak District, and they went out to find as many hills as they could, essentially, and created this crazy loop that it literally looks like a kid's got a crayon and scribbled all over the Peak District when you see the map of it. So it's very convoluted, but that is to pick up all this amazing climbing that the Peak District has, and it's really varied from kind of road hill climbs to kind of really gritty, gnarly, like 25-30%ers to these really long, kind of gradual but swooping descents as well. So there's just some tremendous cycling to be had uphill here, and I think that's what inspired the founders. So it's founded by Elena Beckel in 2019, and then it's been carried forward from there. And me and Dave took over as race directors in 2024.
And why the Peak District originally? Were they based here? Did they just come here for rides, or did they just choose it because of the hills? Like, was it a locally founded event originally? Yeah,
so Elena's Sheffield based, and she roped in a lot of her cycling mates, and 10 of them started on that ride in the first. And I believe there's 2 finishes of that event, because it is such a nutritional course that, yeah, it is a real challenge to get round. And then, yeah, we were both local to the event as well. So, yeah, the Peak District I view as my backyard for cycling. So I've ridden the whole route. I know all the hills and the climbs pretty well. And I just love it when people come out and experience them for themselves as well. It's something quite special.
To put that into numbers for us, like, what are some of the statistics of the event? Maybe just break down like mileage, climbing, number of hills, average time it takes to get around the course.
Yeah, so it's kind of marketed as a 600k event, but it might be slightly over distance, or a little bit more than slightly over distance. So we're running at about 640k at the moment. The route does kind of tweak and change a bit. The Peak District is notorious for having kind of road closures. It suffers a lot with subsidence on climbs and things like that. So the route has kind of evolved over the years. But you're talking over like 13,500 metres of climbing in 600k. So I think that's about 44,000 foot off the top of my head. So yeah, it's a solid ride. In terms of the time it takes to get round it, we actually, it's not a race, it's very open-ended, so people could actually take as long as they wanted to finish the route, and they would still get credited with a finish. They would still get mentioned on our Wall of Fame. We do give a special commendation for people who managed to get around in 48 hours. And since then, people have obviously pushed it to see how fast they can go. At the moment, James Gill holds the crown on the current kind of setup at just over 33 hours, which is fairly mind-boggling for the amount of elevation that's involved. So
yeah, we were going to try and rope James into this as well, but they've literally, this was a sort of fit it in when you can kind of opportunity. So unfortunately, James isn't on it, but yeah, he's got some quite interesting insights. What's he's just off to do? Is he further? He's doing next, I think.
He's riding the Via race.
Oh, Via race.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So he's doing Via in a few weeks' time. So quite sensibly decided this would not be the best lead-in to what is an even longer and bigger ultra event on the continent. So fair play.
Yeah. Poor Rory. If you haven't already, actually if you're on our YouTube channel now, have a look. There's a film from last year's event made with Fergus Coyle with Rory in it, and he roped in at very last minute with that in his specialist training, quite adventurous spirit, and he had real knee problems for a while afterwards, because you do need to do like quite dedicated training for this sort of thing. Do you think the record out of interest, do you think it's going to go this year? It's quite close from when I looked just now.
Possibly.
It's
Touch and go.
The thing is, on this sort of event, things can change so quickly. So last night we already saw a band of weather come in that caused at least one person to pack, who was up till that point at the head of the ride and a really, really strong rider. So things can change really quickly. It's all still to play for, essentially. So be exciting.
Yesterday was the perfect illustration, actually, of how the weather can affect it, because like 3 days ago it looked like it might have been a heat wave here, actually, and then it was like, it's just going to be dry, and then suddenly it's gale force winds, it's pretty serious downpours of rain. So it just goes to show just how much elevation there actually is here in a short space of time, where one valley can be bone dry and one can be pretty torrential. So Dave, maybe you can talk me a little bit about how you guys came to be involved with the event initially in terms of running it and coordinating it.
Yeah, of course. I was trying to remember this, actually. So I originally entered the event for the 2020 edition. Okay. So as Laura mentioned, it was set up back in 2019, so the first open edition was meant to be in 2020. We all know what happened in 2020. So COVID postponed that, and actually the first open edition ended up happening in 2022. Okay. Around that sort of time, or post 2022, they were looking for people to be involved in organising the event, and at the time I was working for a charity, so a big part of the event is that a portion of the entry fees go to a nominated charity. So I thought this is a fantastic way to be able to incorporate the charity I was working for, but also getting involved in some of the organising. So I reached out to Elena and the team who were organising it at the time and said, look, I'd love to be involved. And subsequently, I think around the same sort of time, Laura had also reached out and said, I want to also be involved. So we started working together, as Laura mentioned, on the 2024 edition.
Yeah,
that's right.
That was it.
Which was how I started getting involved. The format of that edition was slightly different to what the format is at the moment. Okay. And I think we've kind of landed on a format that feels like it will be a tweaked version of this one moving forward. So the difference, it's useful to know, 2024 edition started in Sheffield, and we had a halfway house set up, so riders would cover approximately half the distance, have the option to stop at the halfway house, and then come back and finish at the original headquarters in Sheffield, which was a good format. But one of the challenges was it meant that us as race organisers wouldn't necessarily be able to see the riders all that often out on the route. It's much safer for us to be able to see the riders more regularly, but also it means that we can collect the stories more regularly. The format that we've had for this year and the previous year, and the format likely moving forward, is that we've got a headquarters here in Birchover, which isn't a million miles from Matlock. Riders who are completing the whole route go out and cover approximately 200-kilometre loop, come back in, go out and do approximately another 200-kilometre loop, and then final loop is also another approximately 200-kilometre loop. But we see them multiple times out on the course as well, which is lovely. And then this is the synonymous PPG HQ now. This is the building. We have sleeping facilities. A lot of the riders end up staying overnight, camping here, and it feels a bit more like a hub where people can come back and refuel and reconnect, and we can collect those stories on a regular basis.
I do love this. When you walk in the door like this is why I thought it would work well for the podcast. It's like, as soon as you've not been here for a year, walk in the door and it's just you're instantly back in this little cloistered sort of space. Feels like slightly sacred.
Yeah.
Some of the stories that have been swapped in here. And last year particularly with lots of like people sleeping in here as well, you know. And the site itself is beautiful. Like what amazing like peacocks wandering around, and I've actually just peacock dropped a feather right next to me as I was walking past, so that's gone in the van. It's just really a really amazing location, and obviously from a cycling perspective, whichever direction you go is just absolutely fantastic. What do you think sort of defines the event? Obviously the elevation is the headline, but beyond that, what do you think makes the event like really special?
I think, the way this setup has worked for last year, and we found for this year too, is it is a very small field, so we're not a big event, we're not for profit, so we don't make any money out of this apart from the charity donations. So we're never pushing for big numbers, but that keeps it really close and really elite. So not only do we end up with some really high caliber, fantastic riders, you know, these are guys that are really at the top of their game, but right through to people that just want to come out and have bash at it as well. But it makes it really friendly, and as we found on Friday night when you were cooking up the storm with your pizzas, it was a great social, and people were there, they were having a bit of food, they were chatting, people were picking up tips as well, they were sharing information, and it just has this wonderful social feel. And that's the thing about this HQ as well, is that even when there's still riders on the course, there might have been people that have completed one loop, which is tough enough, or 2 loops, or, you know, they've got friends and family that are waiting on the campsite, and they're all coming here to the central place, and they've all experienced it, done a bit of live dot watching, and come and made the most of it. And that, for me, is what Pure Peak Grit is about, as well as the hills and this amazing experience of being in the Peak District National Park. It is about this kind of community that is not just about the riders, but about everything that comes with it as well.
Yeah, it was nice earlier, Kate's 2 daughters sort of milling around, and obviously Ali's son here.
She's got like a 4-year-old and 7-year-old little girl, and they just loved it. They came out camping for the first time here. Yeah, and that's like this little offshoot that you think, well, that's great. Maybe we've inspired some future ultra-distance riders there.
Of course, last year we had the guys come in from abroad to ride it as well, you know, so you're attracting people from internationally, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, to get in an international field is really immense for a group, a ride that's as small as us. Yeah, so those guys it's an absolute pleasure to have them, and we've been really, really lucky with all the rides we've had.
And Dave, like from a challenge perspective, like people don't often get to hear about what it's like to actually run these events. You hear a lot about riding it and what it takes to ride and compete. What are the challenges of running an ultra like this?
I think there's always the logistical challenges. I think Laura alluded to it before. I think an event like this that covers such a wide portion of the Peak District National Park, there's some kind of challenges around planning the route, and the route always has to be subject to slight changes as we're leading up to the delivery of the event.
I'll say it's hard enough just to dot watch. I mean, if anyone goes and looks at the tracker, you know, like it's really the thought of like having to monitor that and make sure people are okay and everything, like just looking at it now, it's like a plate of spaghetti almost, isn't it?
Yeah, and building in enough structure but flexibility for that structure as we lead up to it is really important, and it's always a bit of a challenge. I think that's a real speciality of Laura's, is having ridden lots of events that are akin to this and been so familiar with the route. That's really kind of where one of Laura's many skill sets really comes into play. I think also I think planning this balance between, yes, we want lots of people to enter, but we also want to maintain that element that feels like it's a community event, and picking up on and adapting to everybody's individual kind of plans and ways they approach the event is always a bit of a challenge. I think fundamentally also, like Laura again alluded to, it's something that we're both doing as event directors, around what we do for day-to-day jobs and other different kind of commitments. We want to make the event the best it can be, but there's also, we're not full-time event organisers in this capacity, so there's definitely challenges there, but there's also opportunities, and I think everybody who enters these types of events are really generous with their time and very appreciative of the time that everybody puts in, as well as not just us essentially being kind of volunteers, but also the volunteers you mentioned, James and Laura.
James is back here photographing, and you know, it's pretty amazing. Having won it last year, like back volunteering this year, that's an amazing sort of sense of camaraderie and spirit.
It's brilliant, and on the scale of the event itself wouldn't be possible without everybody going above and beyond, which is fantastic.
What do you think, like looking again about the diversity of entrants? You've got a college student. I mean, last year there were a couple of gentlemen who were like, in their 50s, like hardened Audaxers. Then you've got, people like Alan coming. It's such a diverse mix of people. And then in the prologue, really like Jess coming up this year and riding it. Apart from the obvious, which is riding up hills a lot and testing, do you see any sense of like an unseen bond between them? What is it that kind of binds those disparate range of people together? Is there a sense, like a spirit that you see that they share, or?
Yeah, I think it's definitely that kind of sense of adventure or doing something a little bit different. Yeah, I mean, Audax is a fantastic lead into this, but I'd say this is a step up from your average Audax ride.
Even a difficult AAA ride, like this is...
Yeah. So this is next level. And yeah, it has been looked into to try and make this an Audax, but the format wouldn't fit. And yeah, the challenges involved would make it very hard for anybody to ever finish on time and therefore get any Audax points. So yes, it is it's a different level from an Audax essentially, but it's a great lead-in as well. So if people are interested in doing ultra distance riding or racing, particularly some of the longer events like the VIA, like the Transcon, things like that, I think it's a great kind of step into that, because the level of challenge for the short duration of time is remarkably high. So for 2 days, 3 days out in the Peak District, you've got to use a load of different skills in terms of self-management, in terms of managing your effort levels, in terms of managing where and when you sleep, where you resupply, how you're going to keep warm, which every year we see people underestimate the weather of the Peak District. So all these soft skills come in. And you mentioned the prologue ride, which is the new format for this year, which is specifically for women this year. So we are kind of very keen to increase the diversity of the ride, not just in terms of gender, but as you say, we've usually got quite a good age range, but in terms of, diversity, race, everything as well. It's great to kind of have a really broad spectrum of participants, and that's what, we'd really like to see. Yeah. So the prologue has been designed to give women a kind of step into this, because it is a big challenge. So they ride one loop of it, kind of separately by themselves, but it's we give them a lot more support. They can have as much support as they want on the course, and it's designed to be that kind of step in, that kind of extra little kind of safety net, as it were, to try and encourage people to take on the challenge, because I think that's what attracts people. I think it's the challenge.
I think the HQ is quite an interesting one, right? Because it's unusual that you get to this loop which comes back through somewhere. It gives you the chance to resupply and have a bit of a break and eat, or maybe have a nap, or like to check your bike or whatever. But it also gives you an easy out. So I think psychologically, like there's always that thing of like, oh, okay, I've done this loop now, maybe I'm not going to go out on that next loop, which is kind of interesting. But I think like if you're an outsider looking at this event and thinking this is just too difficult for me, I'm not even going to try, actually it gives you an opportunity, especially if you come and you're set up with a camp or you have people supporting you, you can come here and have a crack at it, and then maybe have like a 6 or 7 hours night sleep, and then go out again the next day fresh, like has happened today actually. So
Ross has gone out this morning, and he might not get 3 loops done this time, but he's having a really good stab at 2 loops. So that's brilliant, because he came last year as well. And this event, we have loads of returners. It's immense. So we had Andrew coming back for the 3rd time. But Ross got so far into loop 2 Pat last time, but this time I reckon he's going to do it. I reckon he's going to pull it off. Amazing. And that's quite exciting itself, because that shows progression, throughout the years. So I
mean, anyone coming back like that, it's a real, there's so many other options that you could choose. The fact that you're coming back to this event, I think, speaks volumes.
I think you mentioned it before as well, Ed, that there's people who are coming from a range of different backgrounds. It might be that there's seasoned Audaxers, there's people who are entering multiple different ultras throughout the year, and it's also, there's a lot of people where this will be, one loop will be the longest ride that they've ever done. And I think what we want to try and do is try and encourage people to feel like they can give it a crack. That's what Laura alluded to before. The one thing I would say is that we have a range of different people from different backgrounds, ages, all that sort of stuff. But the one thing that seems to tie them all together is a general kind of positivity. So every single person who takes on this challenge, seems to be smiling as much as we see them, and super appreciative, super positive, willing to share those tips and that insight. And yes, it's not a race, but these things can often spiral into being hyper competitive. However, this hasn't done that, and part of that is probably how we frame it, but part of it is self-selecting. The people who come on these types of events are just really generous with their time and their approach and their positivity. So there's something really interesting whether you're doing the full 640 plus kilometres, or if you're doing one loop, or even if you have an issue when you're out on the course and you can't even complete one loop. Everybody seems super positive, and personally that's why I really enjoy coming back year on year. It's to kind of absorb some of that positivity from other people, and then try and use it for the next 12 months of our time.
I mean, the last time I saw Ali's dot last night, I think she was in a Wetherspoons in, I can't remember where.
It's Buxton.
In Buxton, Wetherspoons, and it was like, I don't know, about 11 p.m, and it was pretty squally and blowy outside, and she still had a couple of really nasty climbs to do, and I was just thinking, I'll wake up in the morning and she might scratch. And I found her in the tent this morning, smiling away in her breath, all right, thinking she's going to come. Oh no, it was a great time.
Yeah, she said she absolutely loved it. We do have some people who come in and curse us for the hills, but she said she had an absolutely brilliant time. So that's all
well,
wrong.
Like we had a message from Jess. Maybe we're going to have to go and pick her up, and next thing you know, she's flying up the next pass, and doing that to keep warm. It's just that positivity, and I think having that bit of experience obviously does really help. It wouldn't be one I'd recommend people to come and do without having already pushed themselves and found their limits. And I think Audax, again, you mentioned that earlier, Laura, it's a great place to kind of push yourself up 50, 100, 200, do some AAA points, maybe do a couple of the bigger events. That's a great grounding, the self-sufficiency that it gives you as well, like learning that. But then on the other end of the scale, then you've got someone coming in with very little stuff, just thinking they're going to crack around it as fast as they possibly can. Had the weather been dry, that might have actually worked, and he might have smashed the course record. It is fascinating. You can take a lot of different tools to this course, and that makes it interesting.
Yeah.
There's lots of little things as well. I think one of the things we try and encourage is that community element. So a little thing is that we set up a WhatsApp group for all the riders. So elements of that are also so we can communicate with them collectively out on the course. But what we found is year on year is that, especially as the event goes on, is all the riders are sharing their little stories on there. So if they're stopping for a mid-ride McDonald's somewhere, and they've just managed to get in the co-op, which has happened, just to do a final
by 10 seconds, was
exactly. Or we've just had, like in the last 20 minutes, half an hour, one of the riders, Andrew, who managed to forage some berries out on the course and wanted to share that with us. So he shared a video on the WhatsApp group. So there's little moments of positivity there, which we like to think isn't just useful for us at HQ, but for other people who are maybe going through a little bit of a low out on the course. They can see that other people are either sharing in that, or they can share a bit of positivity as well.
Love that. That's great. Given obviously people statistically are riding longer, and we're seeing that in terms of even just the clothing people are buying, the way that they're building their bikes. Everyone's got frame bags in place now and so on. Some really interesting brands popping up at the more events, people going abroad a lot more doing these events. Why isn't it more popular? If you're in the UK, it's on your doorstep. It's got the wild feel. It's got the challenge. It's got so many aspects. For me personally, looking inwards, I've obviously had a few years of not doing these kind of events for family and business and everything else, but it's exactly the kind of event that would be like the top of my list to be looking at doing as a challenge. So why do you think more people aren't coming and doing it?
I think the level of climbing does put people off with it. There is a lot, and you do need to be of that level of fitness. But we'd love to. I've ridden the whole route myself. I think it's amazing. I would definitely choose to do it if I wasn't running it.
You're never going to forget.
No.
It's going to burn itself into your mind.
Yeah, as I said, the people that are not going so fast, so we always give a special mention to the Lantern Rouge, which was Andrew last year, who's now come back 3 years in a row. I'm not sure people realise that they've kind of got this opportunity to take as long as they want to go out and enjoy it. And we joke a little bit that people are going out to enjoy the hills and enjoy the brutality of it, but I think you absolutely can. And seeing that little photo of Dave with Andrew stopping to pick some berries, to me, I think that is as good a way to enjoy the event as to be trying to get the course record and blasting through. And I'd really like to see more people come maybe take it a bit steadier, make the use of the HQ facilities we've got here, make use of, getting a good night's sleep and going and enjoying as much of the route as possible. So, yeah, when people do go out and do that, I'm like, yeah, that's great. I really appreciate it when they do take the time as well.
I think as well, what Laura and I like to do after each edition is really assess, we're quite aware that over the weekend we're in a bit of a bubble where we're talking to people who are familiar with this type of distance and also much longer events as well. But when we go back to our non-PPG lives, we're interacting with people who going out on a 10-mile cycle is a significant kind of venture for them. So what we try and do is, in a bit of a post-event assessment, is how can we actually, what are the little tweaks we can do to try and get people to even consider coming in, and that's kind of where the prologue was born. And we're always thinking during the weekend about different ways we can do that whilst maintaining the DNA of the event itself as a particularly challenging event. But we're always questioning it. Nothing is particularly fixed, and so each edition feels like there's some flexibility and some adaptation to try and encourage more people to come and get involved with these things.
And how much of that as an organiser comes, obviously, Laura, you've actually not slept yet last night, have you?
Small nap, I can close my eyes for a bit.
So how much of that comes now and how much of that comes later? Are you sort of actively talking and taking notes now as to things you might tweak and change, or is that done in a debrief? How do you filter that through?
All of the above, yeah. Right. So absolutely, I make notes along the way, because you say, there is a risk I will forget things.
Sure.
But no, we work on it throughout the year essentially, don't we? So as soon as this one's over, we'll start putting things in place for the next, and then it's an ongoing process. As I say, this a hobby is probably a bit of a stretch for the level of commitment involved, but yeah, we're keen to progress it, pick it up, and take it forward almost as soon as the last one's done.
And it's picking up on things that people who are helping us as volunteers, who are also seasoned Audax and ultra riders, are suggesting, and little bits of feedback that we get, little anecdotal bits of feedback from the riders, and also the people who are supporting those riders, the families who come up and all that sort of stuff. So we're essentially using it as a bit of an opportunity to be sponges over the weekend to influence what the next decisions might be. As well as picking up on different tips from other events as well. Everyone's pretty generous in terms of sharing the challenges, but also the benefits of running events that are similar to this.
It's super easy to get snowblind, isn't it? And having that kind of people that understand really innately what you're doing, but that are able to come in almost like a third-person view, and looking down on it and sort of picking out the bits that work and don't work. Yeah, it's very, very similar with costume and what we're doing with the apparel. You're so laser focused, and then a tester or someone will say, "Oh, have you thought about doing this?" Our new minimalist jersey came about through making the jersey for Sarah Ruggins' world record without the pockets, and then it's like, oh, actually everyone has frame bags in all the time. You can't really get a pocketless technical jersey. That wouldn't have come about without a third-party interjection, Worth touching on that as well. Obviously, it's been a very successful year for kind of female cycling. Obviously, Sarah's world record. Worth mentioning, Laura, obviously your incredible world record.
Yeah, it's not entirely cycling though, if we're honest, though, is it?
Anyone that doesn't know, talk us through it a little bit.
So I completed 32 iron distance triathlons in 32 days this year. So set no wonder I'm tired. To set a new female record,
Incredible.
It blows my mind.
It's just every time I hear it, it seems even more extreme. The first time I saw it was a bit like, oh, yeah, that's amazing, and then I really processed it the second time, and it's pretty mind-boggling. Yeah, and what did you learn from that? What were the takeaways?
Yeah, so much. But, that sort of thing feeds into this as well. I've had a lot of conversations this weekend with people about endurance, of something like nutrition, real food, what goes down well, what doesn't. And, we cater for riders here as they come in. So having an awareness of what really works, like a pot noodle or crumble, that I think having that kind of personal touch makes a big difference. And just knowing what it's like when you're, sleep deprived, when you're tired, when you're out there, and you kind of get a sense of when to nudge people in the right direction. So, sometimes absolutely, unfortunately, it's your rider this year, Alan, that we were delighted he could make it, but it wasn't his year, and I could see instantly that was the right decision.
Yes.
But equally, Ross, who's gone back out this morning, we give him a little gentle nudge and said, well, sleep with it. Yeah.
You didn't say we'll pick you up.
No,
definitely. Now is like you're getting closer back to
yeah.
It's what's the psychology, like psychology's, the brain is so powerful in these events.
Oh God,
it's
yeah.
So
absolutely. It's, it's all in the head. And yeah, she was having a bit of a wobble, and it's like, oh gosh, you're going to be okay. But she might disagree, but actually when she came back in, she seemed in brilliant spirits, she seemed really good. So I was like, actually, you were nailing it. And she flew around that last bit.
She did.
Yeah.
Really impressive.
Yeah, very strong rider.
Actually, the last episode of the podcast, if you only just stumbled on us now, go back and watch. It was with Alan Coval and Sarah Ruggins. And we did that while Sarah was on the record. But there's some really interesting insights. So yeah, Alan did come, he mentioned it in the podcast, and he did come and take part. He was running second or third, I think. But he's still recovering from Lyme, and he had a recurrence of the headaches he'd been getting, having not had that in recent training. So yeah, it's one of those things where sometimes you have to listen to your body essentially, and I think experience kind of tells you when to push a little bit more, and you do have some in the tank, and then sometimes it's there's an interesting point Alan made in the podcast, which was like when he did his previous Everesting, like the final climb, he pushed harder than any of the climb because it was like, how much have I got left in the tank?
Yeah.
I think it's amazing when you think you're at your lowest ebb, you generally always have some reserves, but when it comes to things like hypothermia and like,
you've got to take things seriously, and we're very aware of that as race directors. We're constantly like, even now we're watching these dots go round just to make sure they're okay. Exactly. But Alan was brilliant because he missed out last year. I was so grateful he came to ride. But he came in and he literally, this is a man that he can't get enough of hill riding. He's done, all there ever so much. And he's like, you've got such brilliant hills around here. It was, fantastic. I really enjoyed it. And I was just like, yeah, you know what? We really have got something special here. These hills are, you got to come see them to believe them.
And I think it was really nice when there's riders who have done events all across the world, loads of events across the UK that come with a real reputation, like we mentioned this year, but also in previous years, a real pedigree. But people are just really appreciative that we can make them a cup of tea or make them some pasta when they come in, or that we'll make them some beans on toast and put a ton of cheese on top for them, or whatever that might be. It's just really brilliant that people are so appreciative. Like we don't expect it. It's just a really nice bonus. It's
like, and you walk in that door, and it's like the egos that maybe they disappear. I mean, it's funny actually. The Friday night, kind of Alan was talking to James last year who won it, and he was like sharing tips with him about how like potentially Alan might win it. So it's not often that happens.
I think it really is that point about ego. I mean, I'm sure that, like speaking for myself, I've competed in lots of different types of like cycling and running events and things like that, and it can be quite an egotistical environment. But really, when I dip my toe into this world, which is a world which Laura is much more familiar with, really isn't that ego. I've never had an instance where I felt like anybody's come in and taken the work that we're doing for granted. They're just super appreciative, and that's why it feels really nourishing to do these types of events as an organiser.
Yeah, and often the first finishers, or people, they'll be hanging around the campsite with us guys, and they'll be out later on cheering in the last few people. And
Jess isn't going home; they're going to stay, even though obviously her partner DNS'd after the first loop. You think they would pack up and get back to London, but they're like, no, we're going to hang around, go back tomorrow. That was our plan. It's so lovely here.
Just enjoy it. And like we had a little finishers party out there last year. It's not quite as sunny today, but it was really nice. Everybody sat out cheering people in, as I say, like right through to Andrew, who did a tremendous ride, and spent all that time out there, all that time self-managing, and then came into rounds of applause, and it's great.
I think we might be in the pub at the moment, actually.
Oh, there is that.
Steve's gone down with them.
Near a few good pubs.
So the ultimate question, I guess, for anyone that is looking at this thinking, that's something I might want to have a real crack at, what does it take to win, other than, it kind of goes without saying, other than riding up a hill many times repetitively, beyond that? Is it adaptability? Is it food? Is it like, what's to come and really think, right, I'm going to take this on and try and set a fast time? What does it take?
See, I would be tempted to flip that and go, I would say you've won this if you've gone out, got around and had a brilliant time, no matter what your time is. But equally, if you're after the speed, and we don't have places, we do mention the first finisher.
Yeah.
But if you want to go out and set a new course record, which is up for grabs, you do need to manage everything really, really well, and you need to be on point with everything. So it's not just the fitness, it's the nutrition. Some of these areas in the Peak District can be quite remote. Yeah. There are places you can stop, but they're not necessarily en route. So, yeah, we heard guys last night spotting 24-hour McDonald's. Henry, our youngest rider, managed to get into an Indian restaurant and get bottles filled, and just using that ingenuity sometimes, or pre-planning. But the big downfall for a lot of people is the weather here that catches them out, and the temperature drops that we see overnight, bad weather coming in. You've got to be prepared for kind of every eventuality. And I think if you've got that preparation in place, whether you're at the front of the pack or at the back of the pack, that's what success is. It's being, prepared, it's making sensible decisions, and having everything in place. And that's how people go out and have a great time on this route.
I think as well, people just taking each chunk a little bit at a time. Interestingly, talking to Henry, one of the riders, he talked about how it was useful to never zoom out on his Wahoo or his Garmin, because he never really wanted to know quite how far away he was from the headquarters. And like Laura mentioned, this covers a significant distance and a significant kind of portion of the Peak District. So there's certain points where you're as far north as Home Firth, like really close to Halifax, and then you're as far kind of west over towards Manchester. Similarly, as far kind of down south as kind of Stoke-on-Trent and Ashbourne. So you're covering a big period that has its own kind of little microclimates. So sometimes just taking it in little chunks really does help, and kind of having enough confidence but not having too much ego to feel like you're adaptable and you can be still humbled by the terrain and the environment that you're riding in.
And I think we should mention as well, so we have what we call 44 named climbs, a lot of those in the top 100 climb category by Simon Warren. So these are all the significant big ones. We're talking like Winnett's Pass, Snake Pass, Holmmoth, Roseley Bar, they're big names. Yeah. But those aren't the only climbs on the route. So, we do get people kind of led astray when they think they're done for the day. And, there's another sneaky one in there. So, I think just be prepared to always be going uphill, I think is a good motto,
And don't blame us too much.
Sure. I've got to say, it's one of the things I really love about the route and that attracts me. So, when I started audaxing, going from like doing sportives, to audax, it was then seeing the joy and the kind of passion that the route planners have put into creating those routes, taking you on these really interesting diversions and roads you might not otherwise cycle, and how meticulous it is. This route in particular, you mentioned, it goes quite near to quite, reasonable population centres, but you could ride right past them. And that to me is like the joy of this kind of cycling, where you can feel like you're completely in the wilderness, but actually if you take a turn here, you can be in one of the little towns, a garage or whatever, if you kind of need to. So, all credit to the guys, the ladies who put that route together originally. Really impressive.
It's epic,
Yeah, and I mean, you could come here and camp and ride sections of this over a course of a week, and that would be.
And you'd have a brilliant time. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I like it when I do see people that are enjoying it and spending more time in daylight as well, because of course, if you're going through the night, you're going to miss out on some of the fantastic views out there. You might miss out on that anyway because of the weather, but when people do take it steadier, I think they get a lot more from the route. I'd quite like to see somebody come out and really split it over 3 days actually, and do like 3 sets of 200, because that could be achievable. Definitely. And you could still finish on the Monday.
Come on a bank holiday.
You'd still have the HQ facilities here. I think that'd be a great thing to do. So nice little holiday.
Like if you're talking now about how this is going and like you're thinking about future plans, is there anything you can share with us that maybe you haven't shared yet that you're thinking about that like you might change for the future? Any ideas? Obviously you don't have to, but like if there is anything that you want to test, and also are you kind of open to people messaging saying, I'd quite like to do it, but maybe this and this. Like you open to ideas from riders as to like what you could.
Absolutely.
So there's a good one for anyone listening that feels like, if it was like this, I might want to do it. Send them an email or
or they've just got questions, or they're like, I don't know if I could do that, I don't know if it's for me, or what if I can't get round, what if I can only do one loop? Absolutely. And I think that's any changes we make will be directing at kind of diversifying that field of riders. So still attracting these really elite riders that we're getting. Hopefully we've got that prestige now that makes this one of the hardest events in the country, so that we'll still be attracting these fantastic riders. But yeah, I think I'd like to see a bit more diversity in the event, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
And the prologue's already big inroads to doing that, I think. And that's been a brilliant success this year. So all 3 ladies have got round. But not only have they got round, they all seem to have a reasonably good time.
Yeah.
None of them found it easy. Even Kate, who seemed to fly round that loop. It's such a strong ride. She definitely didn't find it easy.
No, she was stiff this morning. She was quite...
she's waddling a bit, wasn't she?
Asking questions.
But they've all got such a sense of achievement, and that was exactly what the prologue was designed to do. And these, Jess has done her fair share, but the other 2 ladies that joined us were not from ultracycling distance backgrounds at all. It was Kate's longest ride by a long way. And they've come in and they've had a great time and smashed it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And she's more cyclocross, isn't she?
Yeah.
Shouldn't be that much further away from this, really.
No. And what a great thing to see, yeah. So that's definitely taken forward. Sorry, Dave.
No, I was just going to say, I think the success of the prologue we'll see as a bit of a downstream kind of effect, in that it's fantastic how positive all the riders taking part in the prologue have been about it. But the real downstream effect is, are we going to see other riders then compete the prologue and then take on the 3 laps or 2 laps or whatever that might be moving forward? So we've been talking about how can we frame future editions of the ride where there's different points of progression, where it might be that the prologue is 1 lap, but it might be that we package 2 laps as a particular kind of challenge in and of itself.
Sure.
So there might be some possibility of doing something like that and learning from how they might do that in other events within cycling, but also
it logistically makes perfect sense with 3 200s to step up like that. That would make a lot of sense, yeah.
Yeah, so that's something that we're kind of discussing as a potential thing that we might be interested in introducing, but it's always trying to straddle that boundary of making sure that there's points of entry, but it also still maintains this prestige of the difficulty of the event in and of itself. So yeah.
Great. Anything that you would say directly to anyone that's like piqued their interest, excuse the pun, piqued their interest, sorry. Anything that you would say to people to like, what would your final words of encouragement be to someone to come and do this event next year?
It sounds like a cliche, but I think just come and give it a go, because I think it can just be a great weekend. As I say, we've got such lovely facilities here. You know, you can come out and do as little or as much as you want and just have a great weekend cycling some of the best roads in the Peak District. You might want to push yourself a little bit further than maybe you thought was possible, but the sense of achievement you get from doing that is immense. And then, as you say, you can come back here, you can freshen up in the showers and get down the pub.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think the idea of these events can sometimes be more intimidating than the reality. And actually just signing up for something, knowing that there's a lot of friendly faces that will welcome you when you actually get here on the start line, or you get here the night before, and that there's lots of people who are doing these types of events for the first time. You can only ever ride your first ultra for the first time once, I guess. I've probably butchered the way in which you kind of articulate that, but basically there's lots of people who would... No, exactly. That's what I'll blame it on. I've probably had slightly more than Laura's had, so I can't really blame that. But essentially there's lots of people who are at different stages in their kind of cycling journey that are taking on this challenge. So just sign up. There's a place for you here.
I think that's a good thing. You know, just follow the Instagram, sign up to the list, and you're not going to get spammed every week, but it'll at least keep it in your mind. And then when you look at your calendar for next year, it's one to... And
it was such a small event as well. We know everybody. We know these people. So even before people turn up, when they kind of enter our screening, we kind of know people's level of experience. We're answering questions one-on-one with people. And when they come in, we know their face. So, it makes it so... that kind of level of intimacy almost, it's like, you're all part of the same family.
Amazing. Well, Well, we will absolutely be back again next year, third year for sure.
Well, you've got to now because of the pizza. That was just immense. Yeah.
It was a bit of a test, so I'll definitely do that again next year. It's good fun. I mean, there was a moment there the other night. Everyone sat around. The sun was setting. That's what I will take home. Like, obviously, the ride experiences are amazing, but that little community feeling there and then was just like you could bottle that. Yeah, nice. All right, thank you guys for doing this at literally the middle of an event. Laura, Dave, thank you for having us. Obviously, go and follow these guys, follow their account, follow the Pure Peak Grit account. Obviously, like and subscribe and share for us too. Tell more people about what we're doing. And there's a few more of these to come soon, so we'll try and get a bit more regular with them now. And thanks for listening.
Thank you.